Good morning, Scotland. Good morning, social media land. I hope you're well. It is Tuesday, the 29th of October, 2024. Those in power have often controlled narratives to shape public opinion, and the British state has become a master of this tactic. When independence movements threaten to disrupt the Union, propaganda is unleashed to protect the status quo. This is exactly what is happening in Scotland today. A carefully crafted Scotland bad narrative paints Scotland's independence as risky and irresponsible. But these tactics are not new. They've evolved over centuries, first in the British Empire and now targeting Scotland. By understanding these tactics, a familiar pattern emerges, one that invites us to question the stories we are told about Scotland's future. In the earliest days of propaganda, it was as simple as spreading rumours by word of mouth. By the time of the British Empire, the methods grew more sophisticated. In India, the British used agent provocateurs and selective news reporting to divide independence movements and to sow seeds of doubt. When the independence movement gained momentum, British newspapers and official communication spread the idea that India was unfit for self-rule. British propaganda claimed Indians lacked financial and intellectual capacity for governance, that only British oversight could maintain order and prosperity. In reality, British policies had systematically stripped India of wealth, creating dependency by design. But British media painted this as proof that India needed British rule, while behind the scenes wealth flowed from India to Britain. The same tactics were used in Malta. The British claimed independence would lead to financial ruin, playing on the public's fear of poverty. This narrative ignored the economic toll that British exploitation had on Malta, presenting a one-sided story of dependency. We see this pattern repeated across the British Empire, a lasting imprint that suggested former colonies were too weak to survive independently. The historical playbook is now applied in Scotland. The Scotland bad narrative perpetuates the idea that Scotland is inherently dependent on the United Kingdom. And media reporting is a major tactic in this. When healthcare or educational challenges arise in Scotland, headlines routinely cast the SNP as failures to manage this. But issues in England are treated differently. Take education. English teachers face poor working conditions and pay so low that some are moving to Scotland for better opportunities. But English media doesn't frame this as a failure of Westminster. Instead, Scotland's education issues are highlighted as inherent flaws in the system. The result is a distorted image, where Scotland's issues seem unique and systemic, while England's are treated as routine. Public sector strikes in England are another example. English cities face ongoing strikes due to low pay and poor conditions, which could bring essential services to a halt. Yet the media frames these strikes as isolated and not systemic failure. When similar threats of strikes occur in Scotland, they're used as proof that Scottish leadership is failing, further cementing the narrative that Scotland cannot govern itself. Modern media amplifies this narrative further, with 24/7 news cycles, social media bubbles and state-funded ads. The Scotland bad story reaches the public across countless channels. Social media reinforces this, where users only see content that aligns with pre-existing views, isolating themselves from balanced perspectives. Troll farms and targeted ads also play a role in spreading unionist propaganda and reinforcing the narrative that Scotland needs the UK. Constant exposure to this can have a psychological effect, creating a dependency mentality. Scots exposed to these narratives might start to internalise them, seeing Scotland as weaker than it truly is, a subtle but effective tactic to make independence seem less viable. We can see similar tactics visible today in the Israeli-Palestine conflict. The media frames one side as violent or incapable of self-governance, using selective stories to reinforce existing power structures. False claims are spread, painting resistance as an obstacle to peace, ignoring the realities of the occupation. This kind of propaganda maintains control, just as British propaganda did in India and Malta and now Scotland. Despite these tactics, Scotland's independence movement remains strong. The desire for independence is still there. What the narrative has done has reshaped the view about the SNP, who bear the brunt of the media attacks. This Scotland bad tactic targets the players but leaves the principles intact, sowing doubt about the leadership while keeping the desire for independence alive. The truth is, Scotland's potential for independence is vast. Its strengths in energy innovation and its trust from the international community with trade prove that it's capable of self-governance. But the British state and its media allies would have us believe otherwise. By highlighting Scotland's struggles and downplaying England's, they paint an imbalanced picture that obscures the truth. Understanding this history of propaganda should serve as a call to action. It is a reminder to question the stories we're told and to recognise those interests that they serve. The negative portrayal of Scotland isn't a reflection of its potential, but rather of a British state determined to maintain the Union. Scotland isn't dependent on Westminster. The evidence shows it can stand on its own if we're willing to look beyond the narrative and see the truth. Propaganda will be used against Scotland even when we're independent, even when we're vying for a better Scotland when we have the powers. People will still downplay our capabilities at home as well as in Westminster. It's so important to recognise these things. It's so important to move past them and look at what we can do and not what other people say that we can't. Scotland is not bad. Scotland is not bad. Scotland is not bad. Tomorrow we're going to have a look at England bad. It's going to be fun. I hope you'll join us. Till then, have a brilliant day.
Remember, maybe,